This film will demonstrate how traffic of a double line is worked over a single line of rails during repairs or obstruction. The section over which single line working is to be carried out lies between Station A and Station B on this diagram. There is a crossover road at each end. The up line runs from A to B, the down line from B to A. There are catch points on the up line, and there's a level crossing protected by signals. At Station A, called Averton Hammer, the station master is informed that an engineering works notice has come in with the mail. He may have heard already that an occupation of the line is contemplated, and this notice will give details of its time, place, and probable duration. Back in his office, the Averton station master, whom we shall call Station Master A, after checking the notice, will get in touch with Station B, called Boyland, and speak to Station Master B. The obstruction will be on the down line, and Station Master A undertakes to make the arrangements for the day of the occupation. As you'll see later, this permits the pilotman to make his first journey over the unobstructed line in the right direction. No train must run over this line in the wrong direction until the form carried by the pilotman has been fully signed. The station masters decide that after the down train has left Averton at 10:30, single line working will be set up with the up train which leaves Averton at 10:40. The Averton Station Master A prepares single line working forms, in this case 5 forms, for the people who will be responsible for its operation. One form will be held by the person acting as pilotman. One will be retained by the Averton Station Master A as responsible person in advance of the obstruction. One will go to the signalman in charge of the crossover road at Averton. One will go to the Boyland Station Master B as responsible person in rear. And one will go to the signalman in charge of the crossover road at Boyland. At Averton Hammer, on the day of the occupation, Station Master A checks the hand signalmen's equipment. One man, with flags, detonators, and lamp, will go to the up distant signal. The other hand signalmen have flags, detonators, lamps, and clips. One will go to the crossover road at Averton and work under the authority of the signalman. The other will go to the catch points. Station Master B will see that the crossover road at Boyland is manned. At Averton, the 10:30 down train is just leaving the section. The Averton signalman, whom we shall call Signalman A, sends train out of section to the Boyland signalman, whom we shall call Signalman B. Then Signalman A restores his downline block indicator to normal. The downline is now occupied by the engineers. Flags and detonators are placed at each end of the obstructed line. Detonators are placed 10 yards apart and a quarter of a mile or more, if necessary, from the point where single line working commences. If this cannot be done, those detonators in rear must be placed as far from the obstruction as possible, and those in advance as far from the crossover road as possible. The pilotman sees Station Master A to collect his armlet and the 5 single-line working forms. He's told that hand signalmen are at the up distant, the Averton crossover, and the catch points. The pilotman signs all the forms. He then gives Station Master A a form to retain and the pilotman's form to sign. After signing, the station master returns this form to the pilotman, who is now ready to initiate single line working. At Atherton's signal box, the pilotman gives signalman A his single line working form. The signalman signs the pilotman's form, and places lever collars on the signal levers controlling the entrance to the single line and protecting the Atherton crossover where trains cross back to their proper road. The pilotman and the signalman sign the train register. And signalman A tells the signalman in rear about the single line working. Atherton signalman A asks Boylan signalman B to accept the 10:40 train from Atherton to Boyland. And when his upline block indicator changes to line clear, he tells the pilotman the train may proceed. The guard is told, down line blocked, single line working in operation on the up line between Atherton and Boyland, block working maintained, and I'll be on the engine. And the driver is told, down line blocked, single line working between Atherton and Boyland, you will pass this signal at danger, but obey all others. I shall be travelling with you. Signalman A now sends train entering section signal to Boyland, and his upline block indicator is changed to train on line. The train passes the flag and detonators, which are on the obstructed line. At the level crossing, the pilotman says, down line blocked between Atherton and Boyland, single line working on the up line, normal working of signals. Trains must be run at reduced speed over the single line, and drivers must give frequent pop whistles. At the obstruction, the pilotman tells the person in charge that single line working is commencing on the up line. At the catch points, the pilotman tells the hand signalman that single line working is in operation and checks that the points are properly clipped. At Boyland, the pilotman will deliver the last two forms. One to Station Master B as responsible person in rear of the obstruction, and one to Signalman B as person in charge of the Boyland crossover road. The Station Master signs the pilotman's form and receives a form to retain. At Boylan's signal box, Signalman B is given a form to retain and signs the pilotman's form. All forms have now been distributed and signatures obtained. The signalman and pilotman both sign the train register. Signalman B tells the signalman in rear about the single line working. And a lever collar is placed on the appropriate signal lever. Boylan signalman B sends train out of section to Averton and turns his upline block indicator to normal. The downline block indicator is also at normal, so that block working can be maintained on them. Now a quick check through the section. A hand signalman at the up distant, single line working forms to Station Master A and Signalman A at Averton, hand signalman at Averton Crossover Road, flag and detonators on obstructed line. Level crossing keeper informed, man in charge at the obstruction informed, catch points clipped and hand signalman present, flag and detonators in rear of the obstruction, hand signalman at Boylan Crossover Road, and single line working forms to Station Master B and Signalman B at Boylan. Single line working may now begin. At Boylan, the pilotman will take a train to Averton travelling on the up line in the wrong direction. The train is now on the down line and will be shunted back over the crossover road to the up line. When it's clear of the crossover road, the points are reversed and clipped by the hand signalman. The train is now signalled back over the crossover to the up line. The hand signalman unclips the points at the down line end and will clip them at the up line end for the train to pass over in a facing direction. As the pilotman waits, signalman B asks signalman A to accept the train. At Averton, before the train is accepted, the crossover leading back to the proper line must be reversed and the points clipped. When this is completed, signalman A accepts the train. And signalman B tells the pilotman the train may proceed. The points at Boylan are now clipped. The guard is told that there's single line working between Averton and Boylan on the up line, that block working will be maintained, and that the pilotman will travel on the engine. The pilotman gives the driver the same information and satisfies himself that the driver is aware of the position of the catch points. The train leaves Boylan for Averton, travelling on the up line in the wrong direction, with the pilotman aboard. Signalman B sends train entering section to signalman A, and his down line block indicator is changed to train on line. The pilotman tells the driver he can pass the signal controlling the entrance to the obstructed line at danger. The man at the catch points gives a green hand signal held steadily to indicate that the points are properly clipped. The driver has reduced speed to 10 miles per hour. The pilotman shows himself to the man at the catch points and the men working on the line. They will then know the next train will be from Averton to Boylan. The train is now approaching the crossover road at Abberton. The driver has reduced speed and looks for a hand signal. This is given by the hand signalman on the authority of the Abberton signalman by means of the ground signal. The train now crosses over, back to its proper line. At Abberton Station, the pilotman leaves the train. He goes to the signal box and signs the train register. When the train is clear, signalman A sends train out of section to Boyland and restores his down-line block indicator to normal. The clip is removed from the crossover road at Abberton and the points are restored to normal. The pilotman, who has been told that the next two trains will be from Abberton to Boyland, awaits the signalman's instructions. The next train is cautioned by the hand signalman past the up-distance signal. When signalman A gets acceptance from Boyland, he tells the pilotman that the train may proceed. The pilotman tells the guard there's single line working between Abberton and Boyland over the up line. Block working is being maintained, and I'm sending you through. He tells the driver as well and says, pass this signal at danger and obey all others. The driver travels with caution and looks out for any hand signals. The important thing is that the men on the ground see no pilotman and know that the next train will be in the same direction. The train arrives at Boyland, and after setting down passengers, proceeds on its way. Signalman B sends train out of section to Abberton. At Abberton, the pilotman awaits the next train, which is cautioned past the up distant by the hand signalman. When signalman A gets acceptance from Boyland, he tells the pilotman the train may leave. This is an assisted train. The pilotman tells the front driver about single line working, that he can pass the signal at danger, but must obey all others, and says, I will be on the rear engine. He also informs the guard and the rear driver. The rear engine gives the whistle code, and the front one acknowledges. The drivers travel with caution and look out for hand signals. The pilotman shows himself, and the men on the ground know that the next train will be coming from the opposite direction. And so the working goes on. But what happens when men change duty? At Atherton's signal box, a new signalman takes over. He's told there is single line working on the up line. He signs the signalman's form and will sign the pilotman's form when he arrives. The lever collars are pointed out, and then both signalmen sign the train register. The first signalman now goes off duty. When the pilotman arrives, the new signalman signs the pilotman's form . Then the pilotman signs the train register. Now it's time for a new pilotman to take over, and Station Master A prepares a fresh set of forms. The pilotman going off duty hands over the armlet and his pilotman's form to the new pilotman. The station master hands his old form to the new pilotman and the 5 new forms which the pilotman signs. He then gives the station master the new pilotman's form to sign, then one for the station master to retain. The old pilotman has now finished his duty. At Atherton's signal box, the signalman signs the new pilotman's form, then returns it together with the old signalman's form and receives a new one. Then the pilotman signs the train register. When signalman A gets acceptance from Boyland, he tells the pilotman the train may proceed. And as the next train will be coming from Boyland, the pilotman can travel on this train to deliver his new forms. Both the guard and driver are told that the down line is blocked, that there is single line working on the up line, that block working is being maintained, and that he will be travelling on the engine. He tells the driver that the signal may be passed at danger. Signalman A sends train entering section to Boyland. The driver travels with caution. The pilotman shows himself, and the men on the ground know that the next train will come from the opposite direction. It's the armlet they look for, not the pilotman's face. At Boyland, the pilotman leaves the train. Station Master B signs the new pilotman's form, then receives a new form to retain in place of the old one. At Boyland signal box, Signalman B's old form is exchanged for the new one. The pilotman's form is signed, and then pilotman and signalman sign the train register. All the new pilotman's forms have now been distributed, and the old ones collected. When the pilotman returns to Abberton, he brings all the old forms to the station master, who checks that they are complete. Now we'll see how normal working is restored. Possession of the down line has been handed back to the operating department. The detonators and flags are removed from both ends. At Abberton, the pilotman informs Signalman A, who makes an entry in the train register. Signalman A then phones Station Master A to discuss arrangements for withdrawal of single line working. Then Signalman A confirms with Signalman B that the pilotman will restore normal working by travelling through section on the next train from Abberton to Boyland. Station Master A hands the pilotman his form and tells him to restore normal working by travelling on the next train from Abberton to Boyland. In Abberton signal box, the signalman and pilotman sign the train register. The signalman then gets acceptance from Boyland for the next train. He tells the pilotman the train may leave and hands him his single line working form. The pilotman tells both the guard and driver that he is travelling with the train to withdraw single line working. He tells the driver he can pass the signal at danger and asks him to stop at the level crossing, the catch points, and any men who might still be working on the line. Signalman A sends train entering section to Boyland. The lever collars are now removed. The pilotman tells the level crossing keeper that normal working is being resumed between Abberton and Boyland. At the catch points, the pilotman tells the hand signalman that single line working is being withdrawn with this train and that the clip can be taken off. The hand signalman's duty is now finished. At Boyland, the pilotman will collect the remaining single-line working forms. Station Master B has been informed by Station Master A of the arrangements and hands the pilotman his form. In Boyland's signal box, the pilotman signs the train register, the signalman having just signed. The pilotman collects the signalman's form. When the train leaves Boyland, signalman B removes the lever collar, then sends train out of section to signalman A and enters it in the train register. The pilotman takes his armlet off. Single line working ends as soon as train out of section is sent for the train used by the pilotman, as he has now collected all his forms. The pilotman joins the next train back to Everton. He's now travelling as a passenger, and the train travels on the proper line. Both signalman A and B will have told signalmen in rear that single line working has been withdrawn. At Everton, the pilotman goes to the station master's office to hand in his armlet and all the single line working forms. The station master checks them and puts them, together with the first batch of single line working forms, in an envelope which he addresses and sends with a report to the district operating superintendent. This straightforward case has demonstrated the basic principles of single line working. Conditions will of course vary according to the section of track used. But if each person concerned with its operation knows exactly what he has to do, it can always be carried out smoothly and safely.